A lighthouse is a promise. It is a binary code of survival. Light means safety. Darkness means death. For mariners navigating the outer edges of the Atlantic, the Flannan Isles light was the only thing standing between them and the abyss. It was an unshakable constant. But on the night of December 15th, 1900, the promise was broken. The steamer Arctur, passing through the heavy seas, looked for the guide. They found only a silhouette against the stars. The light was out. The ocean is vast, and equipment fails. But a lighthouse does not simply stop, unless the men inside have stopped first. To understand this mystery, you must understand the rock. This is Eilean Mor, the largest of the 7 hunters. It is a hunk of black basalt thrusting out of the Atlantic 20 miles from the nearest civilization. It is not just an island. It is a prison without bars. 3 men were stationed here. James Ducat, the principal keeper. A man of duty with over 20 years of service. Thomas Marshall, the second assistant, reliable, steady, and Donald MacArthur, the occasional. A veteran seaman who knew the violence of the ocean better than anyone. These were hard men. They were not poets, they were technicians. They did not believe in ghosts, and they did not panic. They were in a fortress designed to withstand the apocalypse, and yet, when the world looked for them, they were gone. Boxing Day. December 26th, 11 days after the light died. The relief ship Hesperus arrives at the landing stage. The captain, Jim Harvey, waits for the routine. Usually, a flag is flown to welcome the relief. Usually, the keepers are standing on the jetty, hungry for news from the mainland. There is no flag. There are no men. Harvey fires a flare. It screams into the gray sky, hanging there like a bloody eye, before fizzling out into the water. He blows the ship's whistle. The sound echoes off the cliffs, bouncing back unanswered. The silence that follows is heavier than the storm. Joseph Moore, the relief keeper, volunteers to go ashore. He is a friend to these men. He expects sickness, maybe an accident. He climbs the 160 steep steps to the lighthouse compound. He is walking into a crime scene, though he doesn't know it yet. The first anomaly, the entrance gate is closed. The second, the main door to the tower is unlocked. He steps inside. The kitchen is clean, the pans are scrubbed, but the fire in the grate is dead. Cold ash, the air is stale, like the air inside a crypt. Moore looks at the wall. The clock has stopped. It isn't a chaotic scene of struggle. It's something worse. It is a tomb. The heart of the lighthouse has stopped beating. Moore calls out their names. Ducat? Marshall? The only answer is the wind whistling through the vents. The silent sentinel is empty. A crime scene tells you 2 stories. What is there, and what is missing? Joseph Moore searches the living quarters. The beds are unmade. The kitchen is tidy. But in the entrance hall, he finds the first crack in the logic. The regulations of the Northern Lighthouse Board are gospel. No keeper leaves the tower without their oilskins, their heavy, waterproof armor against the freezing spray. 2 sets of gear are missing. Ducat and Marshall took their coats, but the 3rd set remains. Donald MacArthur's gear is hanging on the peg. This is a critical detail. MacArthur was the occasional. He was a veteran of the sea. He knew better than anyone that the Atlantic doesn't forgive mistakes. Why would the most experienced man on the island rush out into a freezing December gale in his shirt sleeves? He didn't dress for work. He didn't dress for a patrol. He left in a panic. Whatever called him outside, it didn't give him time to put on his shoes. If the inside of the lighthouse was a tomb, the outside was a battlefield. Moore and the search party descended to the West Landing. What they found there defied physics. Iron railings, cemented into the bedrock, were twisted like spaghetti. The supply crane, built to lift tons of supplies, had been ripped away entirely. And then there was the stone. A block of stone weighing over a ton had been dislodged from the cliff face and thrown uphill. Let me repeat that. Thrown uphill. This landing is 110 feet above sea level. For this damage to occur, a wave would have to crest at over 100 feet, smash into the island with the force of a bomb, and recede. The physical evidence screams of a cataclysm, a rogue wave of biblical proportions that scrubbed the men off the face of the earth. Case closed? Not quite. Here is the paradox. Here is the detail that turns a tragedy into a mystery. Investigators pulled the weather logs. They checked with the station at the Isle of Lewis, just 20 miles away. They checked the logs of passing ships. On the days leading up to the disappearance, December 12th, 13th, and 14th, the weather in the region was reported as calm. There were no hurricanes. There were no megastorms recorded on any barometer in Scotland. So look at the evidence. The iron railings are bent by a storm that could crack the world in half. The weather reports say the sky was clear. If the sea was calm, what bent the iron? And if the sea was raging, why did no one else see it? Unless the storm wasn't just outside. Unless the storm was something the men brought with them. To understand that, we have to look the only witness left. We have to open the logbook. When the physical evidence contradicts physics, a detective must look for a different kind of proof. Mor turns his back on the twisted iron rails and the impossible stone blocks. He looks to the only witness left on Eilean Mor. The logbook. A lighthouse log is a boring document. It is a ledger of oil burned, wicks trimmed, and barometric pressure. It is not a place for emotion. But as Mor reads the entries starting from December 12th, the technical language collapses. The ink tells a story that the weather reports do not. Compare the records. The weather stations on the Isle of Lewis, just 20 miles away, reported calm seas and clear skies. But listen to what Thomas Marshall wrote. December 12th. Gale, north by northwest, sea lashed to fury, never seen such a storm, waves striking tower. Solid water, striking a tower that stands 200 feet above the sea. But the strangest entry isn't about the water. It's about the men. James Ducat, irritable. James Ducat was the principal keeper, a stoic family man. For a subordinate to record him as irritable in an official government document suggests a tension so thick it was suffocating. And then, December 13th, the breakdown. Storm continued through night. Wind shifted west by north. Marshall, crying. Thomas Marshall, a seasoned seaman, a man who had looked the Atlantic in the eye for years. Keepers do not cry because of the wind. They do not weep because of a gale. Unless the storm they were fighting wasn't outside the glass. December 14th, 12 p.m., gray daylight. Marshall, Ducat, MacArthur prayed to God. 3 tough Scotsmen huddled on the floor, praying for mercy from a storm that, according to every other barometer in Scotland, did not exist. And then the final entry, the last words ever spoken by the 7 hunters. December 15th, 1 p.m. Storm ended, sea calm, God is over all. Look at the timestamp, 1 p.m. They had hours of daylight left. The storm, real or imagined, was over. They had survived. This is the terrifying discrepancy. They didn't vanish during the fury of the gale. They didn't disappear when the waves were smashing the tower. They vanished in the calm. Whatever took them when the world was quiet. Or perhaps the silence was the one thing they couldn't handle. For over a century, the silence of Eilean Mor has been filled with noise. Campfire stories, sea serpents, ghost ships, abductions by foreign spies. We invent monsters because they are easier to understand than the alternative. A monster can be fought, a ghost can be exorcised, but we must dismiss the supernatural. The truth of the Flannan Isles is not about what came out of the water. It is about what broke inside the tower. The truth is darker because it is human. Psychology has a term for it, folie à deux, a shared psychosis. Or in this case, a madness of 3. Place 3 men in a stone tube. Surround them with the incessant rhythmic roaring of the ocean. Cut them off from the world. The Oracle investigates posits that the severe gale recorded in the logbook was never in the sky. It was in their minds. One man, perhaps Ducat, the leader, begins to crack under the pressure. He hallucinates a storm. He hears wind where there is silence. Because of their isolation, the others do not correct him. They catch his fear like a virus. The waves they saw striking the tower were manifestations of their own terror. They were besieged not by the Atlantic, but by the echo chamber of their own panic. So how did they die? Here is the Oracle's reconstruction of the final hour. December 15th. The mania has peaked. They believe the storm is over. They venture out to the West Landing to secure the gear they believe was damaged. The irony is cruel. The logbook was wrong about the storm, but the ocean is unpredictable. While Ducat and Marshall are at the landing, a real rogue wave, a freak anomaly of the Atlantic, rises up. It smashes into the landing with the force of a freight train. This is what bent the iron rails. This is what dislodged the stone block. Donald MacArthur, watching from the tower, sees his friend swallowed. He is already in a state of psychological shock. He doesn't think. He doesn't grab his coat. He doesn't put on his boots. He runs into the cold air to save them. And the water takes him too. The lighthouse was automated in 1971. There are no more keepers on Eilean Mor, no more logbooks. The case remains officially unsolved. But the lesson of the Flannan Isles remains. We build fortresses of stone to keep the nature out, but we have no defense against the nature within. The horror isn't that the sea is dangerous. The horror is what happens to the human mind when it is left alone on a rock at the edge of the world. I am the Oracle Investigates, and the investigation continues.